my final wake up, meaning I never looked back after this, was 9/11, 2001. I started down the rabbit hole and never looked back. Fellow nurse. Hello, fellow nurse. Yeah, so I should have woken up then. When I read your comment, I thought, no, I was still, because I liked George W. Bush Jr. I did. I didn't like Senior, but I liked Jr. I thought he was legit, especially since he gave horrible speeches. Usually the ones that are full of shit usually give the best speech. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I remember people saying stuff back then. I even remember really clearly Donald Trump being on Fox, and like the day after the towers went down, talking about the steel in the buildings, and I couldn't understand what his point was. But I always supported his positions because his positions always made sense. I just remember not really understanding. I mean, I was understanding like he's trying to say something strange about this because of the steel in the buildings. But because people have said that there were bombs in it, and it's not like they hadn't back in the late 90s. That in the basement of the World Trade Center, a bomb. They had that bomb go off. Anyway, but I wasn't, I mean, anybody that came up back then with conspiracy, I was like, no, the government would never do that. People are not that horrible. And now I'm like, oh, I mean, because I was even in support of the Patriot Act because we should be safe. Yeah, I've learned my lesson so bad from that. So bad. I remember when I said that to somebody way back, back then, 20 years ago, and they're like, no, you never want to give up safety. You never want to give up freedom for safety. Never. And yet and they managed to do it with COVID. They did. I mean, look at how in line every American fell. It's like the worst thing to do. You give the tyrants all that power. So, but yeah, that's when I really realized my mistake. But I wish I would have woken up to that. I know there were things that, yeah, I did question, but then that's when I started watching the news regularly. So I just assumed that what they were saying was true. It's only over the years, even before COVID, that it's like, yeah, it's not making sense. A lot of the things. And then you look back on 9/11, and there was that major event that caused trauma for everyone. I mean, that was a traumatic day. I don't think there's anybody that lived during that knows where they were at and exactly what they were doing at that moment when they got the phone call or somebody told them to put on the news. And then following that was then those anthrax attacks. So they really double whammied the American people with that, like with the fear, to see how, it's like, let's take advantage of the already afraid American people and throw some more at them. And then from that moment on, that's when I guess it probably really changed. I remember, you might remember too, Peter Jennings on ABC. And the day that happened, he had been a former smoker. And I remember him getting on the air, and he was like shaking. And then shortly after that, he hadn't smoked for like decades, and he started smoking again. And then 6 months later, he was dead of lung cancer. So he was really scared. Like you could see it when he would do the news reports. There was a couple of them like that. So that didn't help, and not that, I mean, it was probably the realest I've seen media. You never see any real, true media anymore. But yeah, that's the way that looked after those towers fell. It looked like the gates of hell in the middle of New York. So something drastically changed when that happened, and it changed everything. So the beginning of the true demise, I think, started with that. Not that it hadn't started before that even, but fast tracking it started then. But I wish I was, maybe I don't wish I was awake back then, because I think it would be hard, especially being a nurse, to live in two different realities. It was COVID for me. It was COVID. it was COVID, and then looking into National Institute of Health's their videos themselves that they post from way back in the day, that I'm like, yeah, there's like everything wrong with this. Why didn't we realize this? It just shows the how much they understand how to manipulate the minds of everybody. So I can't, but I'm actually glad I wasn't awake that long, because I think the only exhausting part of it, besides, yeah, it's, you go through the grieving of realizing how much, everything's been such a lie. But I think the biggest exhausting part is having to live in the world that everybody thinks is the honest one. Like, I know people that think that BLM is a true grassroots movement and we have to support it. And I'm just, oh, absolutely not. I don't support terrorist organizations. Just because you want to believe what your hospital says and you want to believe whatever your administrators say or the CNN says, then go ahead. But they all prove to me, like, and it starts to aggravate me sometimes, they all prove to me how much the manipulation's been done, because those people are just believing what the media is telling them. They're not thinking about it. They're not looking into BLM. They're not tracking the money of BLM to see what it goes to. And if I try, and I've tried, especially in health, I've tried to talk to people, that about it. And some of them maybe see a portion of it, but they just can't. It's like they're just too embedded. I don't know. That's exhausting, because it's like, there's that this is like, just this reality is a lie, and that they need to wake up, because you see so many people that aren't bad people, but they're going along with things they shouldn't be, but they can't recognize it because they're not doing their own thinking. That's exhausting. That's the exhausting part. So I can't imagine how you manage to be a nurse and know and have looked into it all the way back then and saw the truth. I can't even imagine it. So but I also can't imagine why I didn't consider it back then. I guess it's just we all wake at our own timing.